Hello, my name is Hugo Mackay, and I will be presenting on why and how the global economy can shift from a linear to circular system. The global economy is in need of dire change to save society, the economy, and the environment from disaster. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, the global economy has been dominated by a linear model, but this system is approaching a dangerous point and will not be able to operate reliably for much longer. For this reason, a new economic system has been developed, known as the circular economy, which offers solutions to the limitations of our current model. The world economy must switch to a circular model to ensure the well-being of society, the economy, and the environment. The origins of our economy lie in the Industrial Revolution. This was a period in history occurring from the 18th to 19th centuries that transformed societies from being predominantly agrarian to industrialized and urban. This introduced many benefits to the world, such as mass production, fast transportation, and better living standards for many. However, because the Industrial Revolution focused solely on mass production and distribution while vastly disregarding environmental impact, a take, make, dispose system was developed and widely adopted by the economies and societies of many developed nations. This system is now known as the linear economy, and although it has benefited the global economy for several decades, the model is outdated and has some serious shortcomings. The linear economy will soon no longer be able to function reliably and poses major risks to society, economics, and the environment. Firstly, the economic model has caused a massive discrepancy between the developed and developing worlds. The linear economy relies heavily on the extraction of natural resources like oil, natural gas, iron, and lumber. The developed world gets the economic benefits of having these resources, which are largely imported from developing countries such as Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Nigeria, Brazil, and Venezuela, which are stuck being the exporters. Studies have shown that there is a heavy correlation between this and high rates of inequality, poverty, and violence in those countries. The fact that these countries are stuck being the exporters of natural resources stunts their economic and societal growth, largely contributing to the fact that they are still developing. Secondly, as natural resources are depleted by extraction, social disruption is likely to occur over limited resources such as clean water. Supplies of water are being depleted faster than ever before, and their purity is also being threatened by industrial pollution. In addition, multiple countries often want access to the same water source. These factors nearly guarantee that future conflict will arise over limited clean water. In addition to the societal threats the linear economy poses, this model also has major economic disadvantages, as it has started to cause the prices of resources to rise and become more volatile. Until recently, the discovery of new natural resource deposits and technological advances in extraction have led to a gradual decline in raw materials prices. However, the depletion of natural resources is beginning to outpace this, posing a massive threat to the economy. From 2005 to 2012, the average prices of food, fuel, and metal rose a staggering 75%, and this trend is expected to continue. By 2030, 3 billion people are expected to join the middle class, leading to a surge in demand for energy and resources. Projections indicate that demand for natural resources such as coal, oil, and iron ore will increase by at least a third. A depleting supply of natural resources, combined with rising demand, will generate massive economic pressure and lead to increasing and more volatile prices of raw materials. Since the consumption of natural resources is at the base of the linear economy, this will most likely have a detrimental impact on the entire system. Finally, because of the environmentally harmful nature of the linear economy, there will be much harm to the environment, in addition to the damage already done by so many decades of using the linear model. Resource extraction will continue to lead the depletion of resources. Industrial pollution will continue to harm ecosystems and worsen the effects of climate change, which include rising global temperatures, major changes in precipitation, melting Arctic ice, rising sea levels, more intense hurricanes, longer droughts, and more frequent and intense heat waves. These catastrophic events will lead to even more societal and economic harm, devastating communities with floods and heat waves and requiring large sums of money to rebuild lost or damaged infrastructure. It would be much better for society, the economy, and the environment to adopt a new economic approach, as a linear economy has come to its end in terms of its benefits and will soon have a destructive effect on the world if it is followed. Fortunately, such an alternative exists, the circular economy, which delivers in what the linear model lacks, providing benefits for society, the economy, and the environment. The circular economy is an economic model that is designed to minimize dependence on natural resources and raw materials, maximize use and retain value of products and materials, and minimize waste and pollution. The circular economy differs from the linear model in several ways. Firstly, it follows a reduce, reuse, recycle step plan as opposed to the take, make, dispose system of the linear economy. It relies far less on natural resources than the linear model because secondary materials are used more often. Products have a longer life cycle in the circular model and are recycled at the end to use for new products. Finally, the circular economy vastly reduces the amount of waste destined for landfills and incineration because more materials are recycled back into the economy rather than being wasted. Because of the circular economy's innovative design, it provides many benefits for the world, socially, economically, and environmentally. Because there is less dependence on natural resources, there would be more equality between the developed and developing worlds, as first world countries would rely less on extracting resources from poorer countries, relieving them of a major restraint in their development. Two major economic benefits the circular economy would provide are the lowering and stability of materials prices and a rise in employment. With the increase in recycling, there would be a steady flow of secondary raw materials for companies to work with. Also, when resources do have to be extracted, it would not be as hard since there would be less demand for them in a circular economy, as their prices would decline. A circular economy would also cause a rise in employment, as there would be an increase in green industries, which are often labor-intensive. For example, complex recycling practices requiring more workers would increase employment. Although jobs would also be destroyed in old linear industries, such as working for landfills and incinerators, projections have indicated that there will likely be a large net gain in the employment rate. As for the environmental benefits, the circular economy would offer many, from reduced resource extraction to less industrial pollution, which would lessen or slow the effects of climate change. It seems there is a perfect alternative to our current economic system, so it is important that the global economy actually transitions to it, and the matter of how to do so requires some significant changes. In order to implement the circular economy at a global scale, there should be progressions and adjustments made in three major fields: legislation, technology, and logistics. Firstly, several legislative changes should be made regarding regulations, fees, quotas, and taxation, in order to incentivize corporations to adopt a circular approach. Current waste regulations are poorly specified and do not encourage the recovery of secondary raw materials from products. More specific regulations regarding waste management should be implemented that minimize landfill and incineration waste while increasing recycling. To push recycling, higher landfill gate fees and recycling quotas should also be passed. For example, the EU plans to increase recycling quotas to 80% by 2030. The rest of the world should follow the EU's decision to do this, as it will aid in a global movement toward the circular economy. Finally, a taxation shift should be implemented. Currently, in most of the developed world, tax on labor is higher than natural resource consumption tax. This is problematic for businesses adopting a circular approach, as circular practices generally require more labor with less resources, while linear practices require more resources with less labor, as they are highly industrialized. This means that businesses are discouraged from adopting a circular approach, as that would mean having to pay more taxes. For this reason, there should be a shift in taxes that relieves tax on labor and increases taxes on resources, incentivizing businesses to implement circular approaches. More technological advancements must also be made, specifically for recycling methods. Currently, a smartphone containing $16 worth of precious metals can only have $3 worth of that extracted and recovered. This poses a major technological barrier in being able to implement efficient and effective recycling practices at large scale. Some recycling methods, such as magnetic separation and melting point differentials, work well for precious metals because of their physical properties, but fail when used to separate plastics, as they are not magnetic and can be complexly combined at the molecular level, requiring just as complex, if not more complex, practices to separate them. One method, used by Veolia, an organization in the UK, uses infrared light to distinguish between plastics, but much more innovation is necessary in this field. Finally, the logistics of many businesses and nations working together should be planned, specifically in creating a global circular market. Accurate tracking systems for recycled materials would increase the efficiency of global trading. Also, a global market for secondary raw materials should be devised, providing information about the prices and availability of materials. A system like this would greatly facilitate the purchase and use of recycled commodities within corporations, making a global transition to the circular economy much smoother. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, the world has been left with a linear economy that has many adverse effects. It is very important that the world switches to the much better circular economy, and that can happen through changes in legislation, technology, and logistics. Thank you.